Welcome to Audible Interlude, a G.I. Joe podcast. I am your host, Dave West, codename Phantom Troublemaker.
And I am your top of the morning to you co-host here this week, Noel Wood, a.k.a. Crapshoot.
And I am the Cobra Trooper that accidentally misplaced your blueprints with just 42 lined paper, codename Legion Cub.
Oh, you guys get better every time. I'm so jealous. So we've got a lot of news to cover. And one of the things I love about this show is that each month the episode's going to be whatever it needs to be. So we're just going to find out what we get to. But lots of news, lots of things to talk about in our show open here. And we'll start with the fact that the Paramount Plus streaming network announced that G.I. Joe will be on that network after, G.I. Joe Snake Eyes will be available after its theatrical run, which does raise the question of, are we going to see other G.I. Joe? You know, I would imagine the movies are probably going to make it on there, but will we see the cartoon? Will we see, the other iterations of the cartoon, the Deke stuff, the Renegades? Will they just unload everything on there, and why wouldn't they?
Well, they did actually just announce that Renegades, I believe, has joined the official YouTube channel.
Yep.
Oh, very nice. And unfortunately, Hasbro has realized they can monetize those streaming feeds, because I always throw the, they have the 24/7 stream of G.I. Joe cartoons, which is mostly the miniseries. But anyway, I always have that on, and I've noticed they go to commercials now every once in a while.
They go to commercials in the middle of a scene, and it doesn't pause it, so you lose like 15 seconds worth of show each time.
Yeah,
which is very annoying. If you watch it on a device where you can actually put ad block on it, it works. But if you're watching it, like if I watch it on my TV a lot, and you just have to suffer through those 15-second commercials.
But those of us who are clever enough have our trusty physical media, which,
yes.
Okay, another thing that I wanted to bring up. So I've got the Foot Locker that Shout Factory put out however many years ago. It's probably been 80 years now, with the entire series, or the entire Sunbow series. But I also have the prior releases where they did the season 1 part 1, season 2 part 1 in the separate digipack type releases. And I've noticed something, because I found my old stash of G.I. Joe DVDs, and I've got a box set that's the first 2 miniseries, and that's all it is. It's one of those double DVD things that opens up and it has the tray in the middle and then in the back. It's a Real American Hero is how it refers to the first miniseries, and then Revenge of Cobra. And so I was like, you know what? I'll just throw them in and watch them. Why not? Just to check them out. And they've got those crazy old CGI menus with the Sky Strikers like flying by, and then it goes to the desk with the pistol on it. It's great. So after that, I was like, well, let's just keep going. So I threw in Pyramid of Darkness, got through that, and then I noticed that the season 1 episodes have the season 2 intro, which I don't think is right. When you get to the first actual regular episodes of the show, it has the intro that has Sergeant Slaughter and like the Joes from later in the season. But they just like slapped it onto the first season. It's really weird.
Weird.
But that's neither here nor there. It's just an odd thing that I wanted to point out, that the media releases have varied over time. So as far as the streaming goes, it remains to be seen, where everything will end up. But if it does end up on Paramount Plus, I don't know that I'll end up subscribing to that. But it would be nice to have a commercial-free option versus YouTube.
Yeah.
Although Hasbro may well figure out, like, oh, we need to make it so it pauses when it goes to commercial. Who knows?
Yeah, of course, you're not going to be able to do that if you are running a live stream, which is what they're doing essentially. But
and the YouTube algorithm doesn't really figure out where commercial breaks are for where they put their ads, so it could be in the middle of the scene anyway, and I just find that so, like, even if the scene pauses, it's still so annoying to have someone in the middle of a sentence and then all of a sudden ad.
Yeah, and you know what? I didn't think about the fact that these are technically streaming. They're not normal YouTube videos. All right. So next thing I've got, did you guys? I know you pointed out a couple of things when we were talking about the notes of what we were going to talk about. Was there anything you wanted to bring up next?
There's so much news to get through.
Yeah.
Let's just dive right in.
Yeah, hit our bullets.
Okay, well, I wanted to put over.
Let's miss the bullets.
Yeah,
I like living.
Yeah, let's dodge those bullets or
bullet points,
red lasers, whatever it may be.
Yes, red lasers.
So I wanted to put over real quick, Display Joe Figures. It's a Facebook page, and it's a guy who makes custom stands for G.I. Joe figures. These things are gorgeous. I imagine they're 3D printed. I haven't. I've put in an order, and he's right now backlogged by about 3 months. So he's going to get back in touch with me when he's got time to get my order. But they're just these gorgeous 3D printed big stand or display stands. They're not just like battle stands. They're backgrounds with the character name. They could have the year, the series number, and it has pegs for the figure to stand. And then it actually has customized for each figure that he's done these for a place to put the backpack and the accessories next to the figure on this display. They're gorgeous. They're incredible.
Yeah, when you were showing us the pictures, when I went to their page, I love that he has a peg for the helmet.
Yes.
To sit, so you don't necessarily have to put that on the figure's head.
Yeah, basically each separate piece that came in whatever the original sales model was will have a spot on these stands, and I believe they were like $15 a piece, which is, if you want it for your whole Joe collection, one, it's going to take up a ton of space, and two, it's going to get kind of pricey. But for something like I want, which I want one for my Special Mission Brazil set, or not one, but a set, as well as one for the cassette, which he said he's going to make happen.
Oh, cool.
Yeah. So if you have a special piece that you want to be kind of the centerpiece of your collection, or one figure that you want to really stand out, or a set of figures, very, very reasonable. Or if you just have tons and tons of space and want your whole collection to look incredible. And I've seen pictures now. He's posted pictures of people who've put lighting elements in them and stuff. I mean, all kinds of crazy customization options for these things. Lots of different colors available. You can get painted or unpainted. Just really, really cool stuff. Go to Display Joe Figures on Facebook and check out the pictures. This stuff looks awesome. Were there any, when I sent you guys the link, were there any figures that you were kind of like, ooh, I'd kind of like to put so-and-so on one of these?
I've seen these, like I've seen them for a while on various Facebook groups that I'm in. And there's a few that I'm just like kind of the marquee figures, especially ones that I might have more than one of, and maybe I want to put one in a separate display. So maybe a Cobra Commander or a Serpentor, or somebody who like looks like Serpentor came with a vehicle, so I guess maybe not him.
He's made one for Serpentor. He's actually got one where the base goes out in this sort of triangle shape in the front, and the chariot mounts like to the front and a little bit to the left of the figure.
Wow.
It looks fantastic. Cool. I mean, the creativity and engineering that has gone into his designs for these is just mind-boggling. I was also kind of thinking about it for that mail-away Lifeline that I got.
Yeah.
That's one that would be kind of a like, oh, this is a special guy I'd like to have off to the side.
Yeah, maybe if you got like a Steel Brigade. I've got a Starduster, so that might be a cool one because it doesn't really fit with all my other ones.
All right, so a little update on Special Missions Cobra Island. Speaking of special missions, you can go to the Needless Things Podcast YouTube channel, and I've got reviews up for Firefly and a Cobra Viper. I only have the Viper because good friend of the show, Steve, found one for me and sent it to me. I've never seen them in stores at all, and none of my other sources that come through with finds in like way out there targets, I guess is what it usually ends up being. Nobody else has come through. So I have one Viper, one Firefly, which I managed to get through the pre-order. So that's shocking in and of itself.
Wow.
But yeah, seen none in stores at all. What about you guys?
Nope.
No. No, I don't go to Target very often. When I do, it's threadbare every time. I think I've seen one of the secondary roadblocks.
Yeah.
And that's pretty much all I've ever seen at a Target. But I will say, as I pointed out earlier today, not the Cobra Island figures, but Amazon is doing pre-orders right now of the Wave 3 regular assortment figures. So you can get a Zartan or a Cobra Trooper and go ahead and put a pre-order in. And apparently they've got, as you were mentioning, Big Bad Toy Store has cases and cases of them. So those should be pretty well accessible for people coming soon, which is great news.
That's good, especially for the Cobra Trooper.
Yeah.
Yeah, Big Bad Toy Store, which is my personal favorite toy retailer, and Entertainment Earth, both, I believe, had access to full cases of that Cobra Infantry figure. And then Zartan was plentiful to order as well. So this wave, which I guess these two figures are a wave. I still don't understand how Hasbro's handling this, but whatever the case may be, you should be able to get your hands on these guys. And as far as the Cobra Infantry, as many as you want. And let me just tell you, if you are a troop building fan, this Cobra Infantry figure is fantastic. And you can also see reviews for it and Zartan on the Needless Things YouTube channel. Personally, I prefer this mainline release to the Cobra Island release, even though it doesn't have as many accessories. The paint job to me is much nicer. I like it more.
Yeah, when I saw your comparisons, I definitely like this version better.
Yeah. All right, you guys want to tell us about, from Diamond Select Toys, an announcement of Mini-Mates?
Go for it, Noel.
Oh no, I just noted that they did announce that Mini-Mates line is coming out. They announced both Transformers and G.I. Joe Mini-Mates. Didn't see any pictures of the G.I. Joe yet, or specifically which characters are going to be in the assortment, but pretty exciting because that's an area we have not seen G.I. Joe yet in, is the Diamond Select Mini-Mates.
And I think it's really cool. I like the standard buck using optional parts has worked really well in the past. The fact that they were able to do a line of battle beasts that to me was acceptable was wild. So the fact that they're going to tackle G.I. Joe, it makes sense, because you've got a basic human buck and then you add on a sailor hat or a beret or whatever the case may be. I think this is a great idea to get Joe into, more collector hands and more like direct market type things.
When I saw the announcement, I was very surprised that it had not already happened. When you think of some of the obscure properties that have had Mini-Mates, I was like, oh yeah, this is the first. I
think Hasbro has only in the past year gotten comfortable with farming G.I. Joe out. It seems to me that Joe is one of their properties. It's not like Star Wars. It's not like Marvel, where it could end up in somebody else's hands at some point. They could lose.
And it's one of their properties that they have had now for half a century or more. So they definitely want to keep that as one of their marquees.
And I think they're comfortable expanding it into other formats that they themselves don't have an interest in tackling, like the Mini-Mates, the collector figures, or like we're seeing with just some different things that are coming up. And we're going to get a little speculative here. And I'm going to give you guys and the listeners some homework for next episode, but we'll get to that in a minute. All right, let's see. Speaking of G.I. Joe license being farmed out, so I see online a G.I. Joe Transformers lunchbox. And my first question, anytime I see a metal lunchbox situation, is, hold on, is this a lunchbox or is this a tin tote? Because I have no interest in tin totes. but I'm all about some like old school lunchboxes, and this is almost kind of in the middle because it's actually larger than the metal lunchbox you had when you were a kid, but it's not one of those little tiny tin tote things that were kind of a big deal for a long time. This is a GameStop exclusive item being produced by Funko, and it's a large. Yes, fine. It's a 10 tote, but it's a big one. And it has G.I. Joe graphics on one side or on, I guess, the front and a side, and then Transformers graphics on the back and a side. And these are classic, the Joe graphics are the Awe Striker. It's classic 80s stuff. It's not like somebody, you know how a lot of times when something gets licensed out like this, they'll pull that image of like the Defiant for some reason, or like something from later in the line that doesn't
like, oh, it's a Transformer Pretenders.
Right. Yeah. Like, why are they using this? It's like everything that gets licensed out for Hellraiser is always Hellraiser 3 for some reason, like that kind of weirdness. No, this is like 80s Joe, 80s Transformers, and there are apparently 2 different ones, and I would imagine there has to be a way, like if you look at the SKU, they have to be different because they have different products inside.
Oh, well, from what I understand, it's a complete blind box, so you might go in and buy that and get the same 2 Funko Pops.
Oh, wow.
That you got in the other one.
For $30. Although if you're a GameStop, I don't even know what it is anymore because my son goes to GameStop more than I do. So whatever their membership thing is now, it rang up. The total with tax was $26.49, but the price tag is $29.99. So if you're a member, you get some kind of little discount on it. So I grabbed one because I mainly wanted the lunchbox part, but I was curious to see what was going to be inside, and I got Duke and Megatron Pops, Funko Pops, which we've got a little pop collection at home, but it's not something I'm particularly interested in. For G.I. Joe or Transformers. And then there are 4 buttons that are little pictures of Funko versions of G.I. Joe and Cobra characters. Well, it's the possibilities are Duke and Megatron or Cobra Commander and Optimus Prime. That's what you're going to get. And then pop-wise. But then you also get a G.I. Joe sticker, an Autobots keychain, and then 4 little buttons, like pin-on buttons of those characters. So I think you get the same tchotchkes and then 2 different pops. So it's neat. It's for $30. It was fun to pick up. The lunchbox is really nice. I'm actually going to keep bagged G.I. Joe like accessories in it and then put it up on the shelf because it looks nice. But the pops we are going to be giving away. So if you go and follow, and I totally overlooked this, so this is a great time to go back on it now. Please follow us on Instagram at Audible Interlude Podcast. We are going to be doing an Instagram giveaway for the contents of that tin tote that I got. So go follow us, Audible Interlude Podcast, and find out how to win free stuff.
Yay.
Free is always good.
Free is great. And especially if these are apparently exclusive. The Megatron is exclusive to this set, and the difference is rather than the cannon, he's got the ball and chain. And then the Duke, I don't know what the difference is, but he is also exclusive to this set. So this is by either going and buying this or winning it from Audible Interlude. It's the only way you can get those figures. All right, let's see what else we got. Okay, this is kind of dumb news, but it kind of amused me, so I had to mention it. Some news that popped up last week. G.I. Joe Ever Vigilant, which I don't think we've discussed on here.
No,
I had really
not even be a thing.
I had forgotten that it was even a thing that was supposed to happen.
Right, but apparently it's still like on the docket for Paramount at some point after Snake Eyes. But the news headline that I saw from one of those joke sites that puts up ridiculous things like Gary Oldman says, sure, he'd love to play Commissioner Gordon again, that kind of stuff. Paramount wants Rock to return for G.I. Joe 3. Oh, what a shocking development this is. You want the biggest movie star in the world to star in your movie? Wow, what a headline. What a revelation. So anyway, I just thought that was funny. Moving on into actual news. And
let's get into something good.
Yes. Well, that's for real news. There's going to be a Lady J TV show this week on Amazon, right?
I'm so excited
Amazon
about
Prime.
this.
So let's do either of you have more thorough notes than I have on this? Because my only note was I think Adrienne Palicki is awesome. And I would love to see her return as Lady J, though I doubt that's probably going to happen.
So it the production companies behind it, I did some deep dive, besides Paramount. We have the Skydance media, which, if you're not familiar with them, they produce the Jack Ryan show on Amazon Prime, which, if I had to think of a Lady J or a military themed show, that Jack Ryan show is amazing.
The show's so good that you forget it's the guy from The Office.
Exactly. Yeah.
Like how impressive is that?
I mean, when I saw that, my faith in this TV series just skyrocketed, because those usually aren't the type of shows, like, I'll watch them with other people, but it's not something that on my own will really hook me in. And that Jack Ryan show actually really hooked me in. I was a little amused. One of the other production company of the three is E1, whose well-known properties are, if you have young kids, PJ Masks and Peppa Pig. So now I totally want a G.I. Joe Peppa Pig crossover.
Hey, that's a way to get the kids hooked on it, right?
Exactly. But I keep thinking, okay, why would they go with Lady J? And sort of like the description doesn't give much away as far as what they're thinking, other than she's solo. And when you look at her original file card, something that has gotten lost about Lady J all these years is she's a covert agent. It says directly in her file card, she doesn't mess with the rubber masks and all that sort of stuff. Her dialect, she just embodies whoever it is she's trying to become. So she could throw a blanket around her and sit in the middle of a street, and everybody would just think that she belonged there. It's not the Xandar, nobody knows I'm here, everybody ignores me kind of thing, but just she is so good.
Which is the literal truth.
Right. Yeah. So what I'm hoping for is we're getting a Lady J, a file card version of Lady J meets the Chuckles mini-series from IDW. Maybe, not as Cobra heavy, because I guess it's all, will this tie into the bigger G.I. Joe movie verse? Will it, stand on its own?
Yeah, it's supposed to tie into the movie verse. It is supposed to be in the same universe. And I envision this kind of like Alias, as kind of an idea of how this show would be formatted.
That tone would be great, because I was talking. Speaking of Instagram, I was talking to somebody on Instagram about this, and I said, I don't want it to be too gritty. I don't want like the G.I. Joe version of Homeland. And then I thought about it, and I was like, wait a minute. Maybe I kind of do, because that show was incredible.
Well, Eric Olson, the guy who's producing it, he was the head writer for Man in the High Castle and was the showrunner for the third season of Daredevil.
Yeah.
So there's some dark and gritty stuff in his past.
And a little more serious than what we're used to from, I don't want a live action version of the Sumbo cartoon. Well, okay, I do, but I don't, necessarily need that from this Lady J show.
I want a little bit of that sci-fi or suspension of disbelief, I guess I should say, from the cartoon. Mixed with a heavy dose of reality.
But at the same time,
but not grim, not necessarily like, dirty and gritty. But yeah.
At the same time, I want G.I. Joe to get so big, so recognized, and so well known that we get lots of different iterations at once, to the point where we can have a G.I. Joe series or movie or series of shorts or whatever, where John C. Reilly and Will Ferrell play Tomax and Zaymot. Like, I want G.I. Joe to the point where we have so much great G.I. Joe that nobody's mad that that's going into production.
I'm really hoping that this is a case of like the DC universe, where our movies have been, those first two Joe movies, I'm not a huge fan of. But being able to have a long form storytelling like the old, Larry Hama comic books, where you can build on the actual characters so that you care about them, I think that will make a huge difference in connecting with people again for G.I. Joe.
Dude, I'll tell you right now, I'm at a point after what we've seen from Disney Plus over the past year. I'm at the point now where I don't care if we get big movies of things I love anymore. Just give me good, like 8, 9, 10 episode TV shows.
Yeah.
I'm good to go. I am much more invested in great stories about great characters than about huge bombastic spectacle. And I
think studios are more invested now in making great television shows than great movies, especially with theaters being
right,
having an uncertain future at this point.
Yes, absolutely. So yeah, we're all stoked about the Lady J show. I'm very interested to follow this and see. And what's interesting about this to me is I feel like studios are really jumping on stuff lately. Like, I can't believe how fast it feels like WandaVision came out. I can't believe Winter Soldier's coming out this month, or Falcon and Winter Soldier's coming out this month. Like, I feel like the production on TV shows is moving along much faster than what we're used to with big movies. There's something about making a TV show must be a faster process, because you hear about a movie, 3-4 years out, and then finally you might get it, later on. But with these TV shows, I feel like they're popping them out now.
Mm-hmm.
It's interesting to see. So this is great. Every once in a while on the show here, we are obviously a G.I. Joe podcast. It's right there in the title. But there will be something G.I. Joe adjacent that I feel like we want to address really quickly. How much have you guys been following along with Eagle Force Returns?
Honestly, not really at all.
Yeah, I didn't know about it until you put it in our notes, and I was like, "Wait, that old toy line?"
Yeah, right. The little metal gold guys.
When I did the Google and it pulled up their Kickstarter
from, I was like, 5 years ago.
Yeah, this is so old. Right. How am I only just now hearing about this?
Well, the craziest thing about the whole Eagle Force Returns phenomenon is that at Joe Lanta, local G.I. Joe convention, which is now Toy Lanta,
which I think is actually happening the weekend that we're releasing this.
Yeah. It's.
I will not be there, but
no, I won't be attending either. But Toy Lanta years ago was Joe Lanta and the Great Atlanta Toy Convention. And I ran into a good friend of ours and G.I. Joe aficionado, Ricky Zero, and we were talking about just old toy lines, and Eagle Force came up, the original Eagle Force toy line, which for the listeners, if you don't know, Google it or go to figurerealm.com and look up Eagle Force. They're little tiny, I'm holding my fingers up because we're an audio podcast and that'll be helpful for everybody, but they're these die-cast metal figures that were done by, oh gosh, is it Mego? I think it was Mego.
I think so, yes.
Back in the early 80s, and were kind of competition for G.I. Joe in a way, but they wore these gold uniforms. And when I was a kid, I remember looking at them and thinking these are tiny and boring and I don't want them. But now with my older guy gimmick attuned eyes, I find them appealing. And also, there was a big pile of these in that GI Joe lot that I inherited last year. So, but anyway, we were talking about Eagle Force 5 years ago, and then within the next week, this Eagle Force Returns thing popped up. And we were all like, we were just talking about this. How did this even happen? So I followed along. I almost backed this Kickstarter, but I had just had a toy-oriented Kickstarter kind of flop on me. So I really wasn't comfortable backing another one at the time. And on the one hand, I do wish that I had, because there are a few of the figures I'd really like to have. These to get to the point here, Eagle Force Returns, the figures from the Kickstarter are on the way to the US. They exist, they're packaged, they've been produced, they're on their way here. So anybody who backed this Kickstarter years and years ago, you're going to get your stuff. Some people already have I think it's called Eagle Island, their base. That was the
they did make that.
Some people have it. I got to tell you, I'm not really impressed by it I'm not really impressed by the pictures that I have seen. But the figures that they've put up look awesome. And these are the same people. It was a separate Kickstarter, and there was at some point, the people doing this split apart, which was part of why this has taken 5 years. But some of the people responsible for the original Eagle Force Returns Kickstarter produced the Larry Hama action figure that came out last year, which I did back because, my gosh, yes, I want a Larry Hama action figure. So I have that, and I haven't opened it. I really wish they had put it in resealable packaging, but it looks great. So now I'm really interested in seeing these Eagle Force figures in person, but I wish they had done more of them in the original gold coloring, because they only did Colonel Eagle or General Eagle or whoever the main character is. I am not an Eagle Force aficionado. as the listeners could probably tell you at different points, I'm barely even a G.I. Joe aficionado. But the main character, the Eagle guy, Captain Eagle, whatever, they did him in gold, and then there was a Kickstarter exclusive of one of the other characters in his original gold uniform, but that's it. But these figures look incredible, and I just wanted to kind of give our listeners a heads up to kind of take a look, check these things out. You can still pre-order them from bigbadtoystore.com. So if you see these and you just want to get one or two in hand, go check it out, because I'm really curious to see them, and I'm glad that this Kickstarter that 5 years ago I was very interested in and excited about has finally come to fruition. And I hope that they meet whatever goals they need to meet to get these things distributed a little more widely, because they're, I mean, you guys looked at them now, they look really cool, right?
Yeah
They're very 25th anniversary G.I. Joe style.
Yeah. I mean, they could fit right in that line.
Yeah. So I want to see these things in person. And once I get my hands on them, of course, you're going to be able to find reviews on the Needless Things podcast or Needless Things YouTube channel. On the podcast. Who reviews toys on a podcast? That's preposterous. All right. Real quick, I just wanted to mention I bought a Maisto motorcycle for my Zartan classified figure, and it is too small.
It's adorable.
Yeah, he was so chibi cute.
Like I said, he looks like he's a Shriner.
So for anybody wondering, the G.I. Joe Classified series is slightly larger than actual 1/12 scale, but the good news is my Mezco 1/12 Collective Punisher figure fits on it perfectly, so I'm good to go. But I ordered Toy Hacks stickers, Dreadnought stickers to put on it, which I will not now be doing, but I'm going to continue to look for a motorcycle that is properly scaled to that Zartan, because I really love this classified Zartan figure, but he's crying out for a motorcycle or a chameleon. But come on, Hasbro. Really? Give us a chameleon. Even if it's an exclusive that's impossible to get and we'll never have. Just make one so we know it exists. All right. Valiverse weapons pack. I want to talk about that really quick. Now, how closely have you guys been following Action Force?
No.
No.
We've talked about Bobby Vala a little bit on the show and his Action Force, and again, we'll be talking about that more as the figures start arriving. But there was a Valiverse Action Force weapons pack that is the first official Action Force product. It was put up online on February. Oh gosh, why didn't I put dates on here? Anyway, last Thursday, it went up for sale. There were 1,400 units available. I got one of them. They're on the way. No problem at all ordering. Originally, that pre-order was supposed to happen Tuesday, and the website crashed. It wasn't prepared for this type of thing. But I got my order in. They're on the way. I was hoping I'd be able to talk about them on the show today, but they have not arrived yet. That's fine. We'll talk about them next month. But it is a collection. It's 30 pieces, 12 weapons. It's no figures. It's just the weapons. But what's cool about it is they're scaled to go, they will match with G.I. Joe Classified series. So I can maybe drop some of the goofier weapons like the Cobra Trooper rifles with the gigantic pegs sticking out of them and replace them with something a little bit more realistic. But I'll be curious to see these. They've got removable cartridges and lots of detail. They look pretty cool. I'm curious to see them in hand. Let's see here. More news. You guys saw the Mezco 112 Collective Destro.
I thought you were going to segue there when you mentioned the Mezco 112 Punisher.
Well, I had to talk about. We've got to put over Action Force because I'm rooting for Action Force to do really well, so I had to get that over. But let's talk about this Destro. What do you guys think?
He's got quite a grin on that second head.
Yeah, I said, I am usually never a fan when they use Destro's mask as not a mask and it becomes skin, but that smiling head, that is just wicked. He looks amazing.
Well,
I'm not a fan of the smiling head. I really could do without it, but the other head I think looks great. I think it's a very striking figure, and he's got the big Pimp Daddy cowl that looks like a cobra's head. I think it really stands out very well.
Mm-hmm.
We haven't talked about it on the show before because we haven't had reason to, but Mezco's 112 Collective action figure line is my favorite toy line of all time. I think they're the best action figures I've ever owned in my entire life, and I've got quite a decent collection of them. And I have been hoping that they would never do G.I. Joe because I don't need that in my budget. But now they're doing G.I. Joe, this Destro, and this is what they do. They create sort of hybrid versions of characters. Now, some are very comic book faithful, some are very movie faithful, but my favorite pieces from Mezco are the ones where they take sort of the best elements of a character and create this hybrid version that incorporates kind of all the coolest elements from the movies, from the comics, from whatever else. Like one of the best Batman figures I own is a made-up Mezco Batman. It's not from any specific comic or any specific movie, but it has a very detailed costume that's blue and gray with a big yellow bat symbol. Like that's what they do. That's their thing. And that's what they've done with this Destro. And they've given us a classic mask head where you can see the seams and the rivets and it's a mask, but also a classic animated head with the big grin. And there's the potential that, we only saw these couple of action shots of this figure. There may be another head. We don't know the full array of accessories that he's going to come with. I guarantee there will be more. And where this line really gets me is it's true 1/12 scale. And for instance, Two-Face that they released that recently came out came with a suitcase that opens up and you press a button and the bomb in it lights up and the timer flashes.
Oh, cool.
In this little tiny 1/12 scale thing. These are the kinds of things that they do. The Superman, the Christopher Reeve Superman that just came out, comes with this base that's the Fortress of Solitude, the console where he puts the crystals in. And you take the green crystal, you put it in the console, and the whole thing lights up. And it's not like a button. I don't even know how it works. It's magic because you put other things in the little slot and it doesn't light up. And it's not like you're pressing it in. You just lightly set it in there and it lights up. Dude, it's insane. So Mezco is releasing some of the most posable, interesting, technologically advanced toys of my lifetime. And now they're doing G.I. Joe. And the good news for collectors is they typically do 1 or 2 figures from a franchise per year. So it's not like you're going to be spending $80, $90, $100 on a G.I. Joe figure every month, every 2 months. Destro is probably going to be it for 2022 because he isn't coming out this year. I'll tell you that right now. Probably Destro in 2022, maybe one more right at the end of the year, but probably not. So this is not going to be an expansive line where you're really having to budget. This is going to be something where if you're a G.I. Joe collector, you're going to have one high dollar figure a year, maybe 2 a year, but that's all you're going to have to worry about. And they're going to be the best versions of that character you're ever going to get. I like 112. I'm a big fan. And you can go to the Needless Things YouTube channel and see all kinds of reviews of 112 collective action figures. Speaking of which, I ordered... Okay, so do you guys ever go to eBay and just kind of look at goofy G.I. Joe stuff?
Yeah. Sometimes I get myself
Christian,
in trouble.
we know you do.
Yes.
Why don't you tell us a little bit about your recent project, actually?
So I finally finished my custom Cobra Rat figure, or not figure, but vehicle. So that actually has inspired me. That and a lot of YouTube watching, and like you said, going on eBay and looking at what other people have done. And my next project is going to be a custom cover girl figure.
Interesting.
Yep. I am not a fan of the official Hasbro release. For the 25th anniversary. I don't have her in my collection. Every time I see her, I'm like, why would anyone? So big difference between customizing a figure and customizing a vehicle.
Yeah.
But I've seen some really great cover girls out there. So between eBay and the Marauders Inc. website, who also happens to be running, they told me 2 or 3 weeks behind on orders. So it's going to be a little bit before I can get this one started. But yeah, that's going to be my next project.
And for anybody who's curious to see this rat that Christian worked on, go check out Legion Cub on Instagram, and you can see the before and after pictures. And the rat before is something that I wouldn't even have picked up out of like a clearance bin. Like if I had been digging through one of those big giant bins of $10 junk that you see at G.I. Joe conventions, I wouldn't even have looked at this thing. And he's turned it into something that I would buy. Like, it looks great. It's fantastic.
Yeah, I once I finish CoverGirl, I have some other vehicles in mind from the later years that look like Jello molds. That I'm like, I think with a good paint job, we can actually make these into something that would stick out in a collection. So
my bad habit now, which, by the way, I've got to put myself on lockdown, because my original intent was to rebuild the collection that I had when I was a kid, which is going to take some time and be very expensive. But I've got time. Whatever's out there is out there. It exists. No more is being made. It's not going anywhere. So I'm gonna take my time. I'm gonna be patient. But I've had to decide, like, if I didn't have it when I was a kid, I'm not getting it, because my last purchase was a mint in box Star Brigade Invader.
I love this.
Okay, so if you don't know, the Invader is basically a repaint of the Pogo ballistic battle thing, pod. Whatever it is, from 1987. But this came out in 1993, when Star Brigade was basically the name of the line, and G.I. Joe was like a little tiny footnote on the side. I got one of these for $20.
Wow, I didn't know you got it that cheap.
Mint in box. So I was like, I love the Pogo. I understand it's ridiculous, but I love it. So this different color variation really appealed to my weird sensibilities. So I ordered this thing. I opened it up today, and you'll be able to, if you're listening to this when the episode releases, the unboxing will be on the Needless Things YouTube channel this week. And I opened it up, and what I've decided is, because the stickers that come with it are awful. I love 90s colors, 90s design aesthetic, that kind of thing. But these stickers are 90s in the worst way possible.
Are they paper?
I think they're paper stickers. They're not the clear, good G.I. Joe stuff. So what I did is I ordered a sheet of stickers from Toy Hacks for the original Pogo, and I'm going to put those on the Invader, and I think it's going to look really sharp.
Yeah.
Nice.
Because this Invader is like bright green, bronze, and black. It's actually a cool color scheme, but if I had put the 90s stickers on it, it would look like a piece of trash. But putting the original Pogo stickers on it with those yellow chevrons on the front and the actual Cobra stickers and everything, I think it's going to look really cool. So I'm going to do that. And I wish this is one of those things where I just got really lucky and got this thing for super cheap, and it spoiled me, because I know I'm not going to find any other things like this for this price to be able to do this with.
Yeah, the colors are so outlandish, but for some weird reason, it works.
Yeah.
I like it. Like, it looks cool. I love the green for the cockpit closure deals, the bubble, which I'm a sucker for bubble cockpits anyway. I'm a big fan of Homer Simpson's car design.
The color scheme, and yes, with the green bubble, it reminds me of the robotics toys that came out into like the 90s, like way after the cartoon, when they started showing up in like the we're intelligent toy stores, we're intelligent children.
Yeah.
Where they did like neon green and black, and it just seems to work together, and it looks good.
Yeah, it's a cool. If I'm telling you because I'm going to take it, has one of the stupid and look, for any 90s Joe fans, this is coming from an old man who's out of touch with reality. But one of my big issues with Joe toys from the 90s on is the missile launcher feature, because it never looks good. Now, don't get me wrong. This missile launches like a mofo. I pulled the little trigger and it shot across the room, and I thought I was going to lose it. It's a great missile launcher, but I don't want it. So I'm going to take the missile launcher off. I'm going to put these Toy Hacks decals on, and I think this thing is going to look really cool. And I'll be sharing pictures, of course, on Audible Interlude Podcast on Instagram. All right, we've got one more piece of news. This isn't news. This is your homework. It's time for some homework, and I hope you guys are ready for it. So last episode, we talked a little bit about the potential for Super 7 reaction figures based on the Sunbow animation, which I still love that idea. However, what occurred to me is if you look at Super 7's releases, go take a look at Masters of the Universe and what they did with the vintage line. And Super 7 put out Hero and Eldor in the classic Masters of the Universe style. So I think we were thinking too small with our Sunbow reaction figures. I think Super 7 could do original O-ring style G.I. Joe figures of characters from Sunbow and from the comics that never got made. Because if they can figure out a way to do Eldor and Hero that are very different from anything else Super 7 has done, then I think we could get O-ring G.I. Joe figures out of Super 7. Certainly before we'll get them from Hasbro. So here's your homework for you guys and for the listeners, and we'll revisit this in our April episode. I want you guys to come up with the first wave of 6 figures of Super 7 O-ring G.I. Joe Sunbow / comic book figures. So for the listeners, I want you to follow. Let me do a little scrolling back up because our G.I. Joe Audible on Twitter. So tweet at us your lineup of 6 O-ring Super 7 figures that you want to see. We'll read them out on the next episode. And for Noel and Christian, I want you guys have a month to sit down and think about what your wave 1 would be of these figures. So there you go. A little homework to wrap up our opening segment here.
Our super long news segment.
Yeah, super long. That could be the whole episode, but guess
Right?
what, listeners? You are getting a mega bonus episode this month because we have a couple more segments that we absolutely have to get in. So we're going to wrap up our opening and move on. All right, we're doing something a little different this month. Normally, we will review a piece of media from the G.I. Joe franchise, but this month, all 3 of us have received our G.I. Joe Retro Collection Fangs, and we are going to talk about this brand new, or maybe not, G.I. Joe toy that doesn't appear to be available in Walmart stores, but you're very, very lucky if you actually received your pre-order. Now, you guys got yours like, a week or so before I received mine, but that's because deliveries of everything have been absolutely crazy lately.
Yeah. Well, I got mine surprisingly after I was told it was being canceled, but I got it anyway.
Well, yeah. Okay. So Noel, you ordered 2. Did you order 2 in the same order or 2 separate orders?
I ordered 2 separate orders. I ordered one when they first went on sale, and then I ordered when I saw that they were back in stock. I was like, well, I'll go ahead and put another one in just in case I don't get my original order fulfilled, like I did with the Ostriker.
Right.
And then I got an email a few days later saying there was a problem with your order quantities, and so we're canceling your order. And I got 2 of those emails. And I presume they were canceling both of them. So I don't know if they just accidentally double sent the email when I went back and looked at it, because it didn't say what else I ordered in that particular lot to know for sure. But sure enough, I got mine a couple days later. I think it was like that Saturday or Sunday.
And Christian, you just ordered the one and got yours relatively timely.
When we pre-ordered them, I remember it said that they would ship on the 16th, and on the 16th, no email, nothing. And then on the 17th, I got the email saying that it had shipped, and I think it was a day or so later, and there it was.
Yeah, it arrived on a Sunday. I was surprised about that.
Yeah.
I ordered 2 in the initial pre-order, and they shipped right around the time you guys got your shipping notifications, but then took like 2 weeks to get here. So I got both of them. I opened one, and you can find that review on the Needless Things YouTube channel. The other one is currently
sound effect.
Yeah, we need a ding for that. And the other one is currently up on eBay, and we're going to talk. We're going to talk about why now. Let's start. Let's make a sandwich. Let's start with something happy and good, and in the middle we'll put something that's not so great, and then we'll wrap it up with something that's also happy and good. So why don't whoever has the most positive thoughts about this vehicle, why don't you start?
I'll start by saying I like the mold. I think it's a neat little compact helicopter. It's very different from the original Fang, but I still think it holds up very well. And the fact that it's all one piece, you don't have a little roll bar that's going to get lost like before. I like the shape of it. It's got some cool little lines. It's got some neat little exposed engine parts. One other thing that I like is the fact that the missiles that are on the skids don't fall off the moment you turn it upside down like the original Fang.
Yes, I agree with that.
Yours is better than mine then.
Okay.
Oh, really? See, the missile, that was my one, the biggest improvement to me was that the missiles on the skids actually stay in place, where I feel like on the original one, I always had a problem with that.
It took a little work to get them in place, but once I did, they were solid. They're not moving.
Maybe I just need to press down harder or something, because I feel like every time I look at it, the missiles are like, oh, hang on. Boop.
Well, you don't want to press down too hard, because the rubber that the skids are made of.
Yeah.
Whew. Okay, so it's very difficult for me to find anything positive to say about this release. I was initially trying to have a good outlook on it, because it's a Fang. We want more Fangs. We want more Cobra vehicles. We want more cool little weird sci-fi helicopters that are improbable from a physics standpoint. We like this kind of stuff, right? But when I opened it up, the more I handled it and looked at it, and I just hated it more with every second that I beheld it. I don't like how truncated it is. I don't like the fact that the seat is level with, like, there's no recess. Like, the pilot is literally sitting on the fuselage with the little holes that you have to put his legs in just right to get him to sit there. And they had to put a freaking peg in the back of the seat so you could figure out how he's supposed to sit.
Yeah, but the original Fang had a peg.
Yep.
But it was a seat. Well. It was recessed into the vehicle.
Well, and the other thing too is that this still feels like it's being made for 3 3/4 figures from the 80s, and it's not. It's being made for a 4-inch tall figure from 2011.
Yeah,
here's the problem with that is in 2008 they released a Fang, which this blew my mind, because the one big positive I'll say about this is I actually really like the design of the pilot figure. I like the articulation. I like the look of the figure.
He has articulation that's not on any other figure that I'm aware of.
Yes, this is like a whole new level of articulation for a 3 3/4-inch Joe figure. It's now, granted, they made him out of rubber for some reason,
so he could bend into that pilot seat.
Right, it's the only way you're going to get him to fit in the vehicle. I like his oxygen mask. I think it's really cool. I like the design of when you take the helmet off, which, granted, it's just going to fall off.
I was going to say, you have to take the helmet off.
Yeah, right.
Mine just falls off when it's sitting flat.
Yeah, you look at it wrong and the helmet falls off. But I like the sculpt of the hair with the mask. Like, it's a really cool concept for a figure. It's just the materials it's made of are horrible. It's got a holster with a pistol. Like, it's cool. Like,
yeah.
I really like this pilot figure a lot. I'll give it props for that. And I guess when you consider the fact that the retro Joe figures are retailing for $12.99 right now, you pay $12.99 for this pilot figure, and then for $12 more, you get this garbage helicopter to go with it. So it's not that bad. Maybe what if it had been one of those backpack helicopters? That wouldn't have been as cool. So maybe this is great. Maybe I'm looking at this the wrong way. But in 2008, we got a very well done replica of the original Fang with a 25th anniversary style figure that's actually very similar to this pilot. That's what blew my mind. Is I thought this design for this pilot figure was something relatively new, and it's not. This 2008, oh gosh, I just went to the wrong page. This 2008 figure, the Cobra pilot, is very similar. It has the red helmet with the black chevron on the front and the mask. Like, this is actually an update of that figure, and to me, a superior version. So don't get me wrong. This new figure is much better than this 2008 pilot, but this 2008 pilot fit into his 2008 Fang much better than what we got in 2021. I don't like the truncated form. I don't see any reason for that to have happened. I don't like the fact that the seat is level with the top of the, like, there're just so many design decisions. And then when I was putting mine together, I sent you guys a message. Noel, why don't you tell us how you feel about the stickers?
Well, the stickers are impossible to put on the way the figure on the blueprint shows you, because sometimes there's just giant screw holes that are right where that sticker is supposed to be, and sometimes it's an area that doesn't even really exist on the vehicle. But that's not completely unusual, because the Awstriker had a few kind of impossible sticker spots too. So
yeah. But the Awstriker was a more faithful recreation of the original, so it didn't feel quite as much like a slap in the face when you couldn't get the stickers where they were supposed to go. And what really blows my mind about this Fang is the older Fangs do not have these giant screw holes that this new one has. This, I don't want to poo-poo Leonard toys, because I think they do some incredible stuff, particularly their current Predator and Alien lines. I think are amazing for the price point. But this Fang feels like a Leonard toys release from like 1991 to me. Christian, share your thoughts.
Pull
us back from the abyss.
Well, I know when it was first announced, I was really shocked. I was like, oh my gosh, it's an updated thing. Like, we're getting a new mold in the retro line. So Hasbro was putting some faith in this. Little did I know, because when the 24th anniversary figures came out, I really wasn't getting a lot of the vehicles because I had the older vehicles. So actually, it's only been here recently that I was on eBay looking up stuff, and I saw a 25th anniversary Cobra Fang and Claw vehicle 2-pack. And the Fang that is in that pack is this Fang. So
No, sir.
Yes.
No. It's not. I have it. It's hanging from my ceiling in the Phantom Zone.
What?
It is a recreation of the original Fang. It has
I'm
the longer
so
tail portion.
confused now.
No, this is because I have that Fang and Claw 2-pack.
Yeah.
Right.
Oh man.
Right here, hanging up, and this is the OG Fang with the
just with the
seat,
colors. Okay.
complete. This is a new Fang that has been washed in hot water.
Yeah, I think that like you said, the plastic on the skids is way too
it's
way
ridiculous.
too soft.
When you like first opened this thing up and you felt those skids, what were you just like, what were you kidding me?
Yeah, I had like a moment of but I overall I don't dislike it. Okay,
that's fine. That's fine.
For me, it started off on a wrong foot because okay, so you have the little window so you can see your figure, and my pilot, his arm was broken at the elbow. Like he was in the package as an amputee, and I was like, WTF, because you can't really you send this back, and odds are you're probably not going to get
they're just going to be like your best case scenario at that point is like, here's your store credit.
Right. So you know what? It's at the elbow. At least I can glue it, and it'll just be a straight on figure. So I was so disappointed with that aspect that the little nitpicky things I was finding with the Fang didn't seem as bad as I got a broken figure.
It's not so bad if you compare it to a straight up broken.
But I do. The skids do really bother me because there's no safety reason. There is no logical reason why you are using plastic that soft, and that's why I feel like my missiles don't stick on the way that they should.
It's the vehicle's so light that I don't think it really. It doesn't bother me that much because it feels like it's actually, even though if you put pressure on it, it's going to bend, but the vehicle does not put enough weight on it to bend it. So as long as it's sitting there on a shelf, I don't mind the quality of the plastic on the skids.
Right. Well, I think that's where it goes for me is if I decide, well, let me change my displays up, and this Fang goes into a tote for a while, those skids are going to come out warped.
Yeah.
And when the rest of it is hard plastic, I don't understand why the skids aren't.
Well, the first thing that bothered me when I took it out of the package, aside from the packaging, which I could also tell stories about, was that it seems like it would have been a lot easier to actually have just a single ball joint for the front cannon.
What is going on with that cannon?
That's what I thought so too.
Yeah, I don't know why they made that needlessly complicated by putting it on a 2 x-axis joint rather than just a single ball.
Yeah, I started questioning my childhood because I was like, wait,
I had to go check my old Fang to make sure that it was a real ball, right?
Yeah, that was insane. That's completely nuts. I don't understand why that works that way. And for the listeners who maybe haven't had their hands on one of these yet, the classic ball jointed cannon that's on the front of the Fang that can go in any direction, on this new model, you have to move it a certain way and then pivot it before you can get it. It will still point in any direction, but it's, as Noel said, on some kind of weird x-axis. So it doesn't just rotate freely. Like you have to move it and then pivot it to get it to move. It's bizarre.
Yeah, I don't understand why they decided to go with that option because I just don't think it saved them money.
And then the other, and I will say this, I will admit that the skids being this incredibly soft plastic, I've had mine on the shelf for a few days now. It doesn't matter, whatever. It feels like garbage, but whatever, visually on the shelf, or if I was going to hang it from the ceiling, like my other Fangs, it wouldn't matter. But the rotors are also garbage, rather than the traditional Fang rotor where it has, you've got the one rotor blade, one side is a fine edge, and then on the other side there's a fine edge, and it kind of rounds out, and it's a straight piece like a helicopter blade would be. For some reason, they felt the need to make this thick mold where underneath it's recessed like some, I don't even, again, as Noel said, with budgetary reasons for the cannon, how did this save them money to mold the rotor this way to where you look at the, whatever the stickers are, it's not a step, but whatever stickers you're supposed to put on the rotor.
Stay clear.
You could almost put those stay clear stickers on the side of the rotor. That's how thick this thing is.
I actually wasn't sure if I was supposed to when I was putting the stickers on, if they went there or not.
Right.
Yeah.
It's ridiculous.
Yeah, those stickers did not make, not that I've been up close and personal with any helicopter blades, but I was like, this really seems like a given. Unless Cobra troopers really are that dumb.
Well, and also, if you're close enough to see these stay clear stickers, your head's probably already gone.
I mean, when he's sitting in the seat, he's
barely
just
clear.
below.
Right.
So
barely.
Yeah, don't stretch.
That's why he's inches from a haircut.
That's why he's wearing a helmet.
Yes.
There is no figure stand. Was the one thing that struck me immediately too. The other two.
Oh, they do. They came with battle stands.
Yeah, the other two in this run have had battle stands, but this one did not have one.
I didn't even catch that. Good catch, Noel. So look, I don't want to poo-poo anybody who thinks this is a great toy. But for me personally, this gets a solid thumbs down. I like the design of the pilot. And that's it. I'm done. I have nothing further to say.
It's not a great toy. I still find it to be fun. But I've mainly just used it as a background prop in my Cobra Bunker photos so far. So what more does it need to do?
Christian, here's what I want. I want you to repaint this thing in like a light Cobra Trooper blue and bright silver rotor and skids.
Okay. I actually just
make it a different vehicle entirely. And you know what? I'll be honest, if they had not called it the Fang, if they had just made it some other vehicle, given it a different paint job, called it the like Crimson Stab and made it red with silver parts or something like that, I wouldn't.
I'm thinking with as much as you dislike it, they should call it the Cobra Toothless.
But yeah, if it was something else entirely, I don't think I'd be as mad at it as I am. But it's not a suitable Fang. Oh, here's another thing that made me mad. It doesn't even have the Cobra Air Force stickers. It's just regular Cobra stickers.
Does the original Fang have
it? It has the Cobra Air Force stickers.
Are you sure?
I'm not 1,000% positive, but I feel like it does.
No, the original Fang does not have the Cobra Air
Force.
Well,
never mind.
I think the Rattler was the one that...
I'll edit that part out.
Oh.
No, I won't, because I'm not afraid to sound like a dum-dum. But okay, so here I will put this out there though. From here on out, anything that Hasbro releases that is a Cobra Air vehicle should have the Cobra Air Force insignia on it. That's the attention to detail that I want.
The snake waffa.
So I think we have thoroughly dissected the new G.I. Joe Retro Collection Cobra.
Wait,
Fang.
real quick.
Yes.
So Retro Collection Fang or Rob Liefeld Snake Eyes Comics #1?
Oh, Fang.
Because it
Fang
seems
all the
to
way.
be
and here's the thing. I paid, what was it, $4 or $5 or whatever it was for that Liefeld comic. I paid $25 for the Fang. Fang, better value. So there we go. Ending on a positive note.
There you go.
All right, let's move on to the next segment.
Welcome to Instruments of Destruction, where we discuss a vehicle of some sort from anywhere during the G.I. Joe run. And I, Noel, aka Crapshoot, got to pick this month's vehicle. And considering that we're at the tail end of winter here, and considering that there are parts of the country that got more snow than they've gotten in a long, long time, decades perhaps, I decided we need to stick with a winter vehicle. And so I chose one of my favorites from 1985. This was the Snowcat.
Awesome.
And, yes. So the Snowcat was kind of a replacement for the 1983 Polar Battle Bear, and quite an upgrade because it's about 4 times the size of it. And it did come with an action figure, Frostbite. It was also the first half-track in the Joe's arsenal. And as a kid, I loved half-tracks. So it was cool to get one of those. It's got some great detail. One of my favorite pieces of it is the fact that it's got a windshield with a molded frosting on it, and a windshield wiper that goes along. So you can see where the wiper has cleaned it out for the driver to see. It's got some really more than you would expect detail inside the canopy. The instrument panels, the texture on the seats, the texture underneath the canopy glass. Lots of great detail there. Detail on the back of it with the engine cover. And then a lot of weapons, some of which make sense, some of which make no sense.
How dare you impugn the name of Rockets on Skis?
Right?
Rockets on Skis.
Come on.
How dare you, sir?
Well, and the thing was, they make some sense based on the initial purpose of this vehicle, but as they later released this vehicle in other forms, they made less and less sense, which we can talk about here shortly. I will say, if I'm gonna have if I have drawbacks about it, it doesn't have any kind of anti-personnel weapon on it. The Polar Battle Bear had a machine gun in the front, and this one I think would have benefited by having something like that, because otherwise it's just got missiles, and it's not the kind of vehicle you would expect to be like a heavy duty missile launching tank, because it's kind of a truck with tank treads in the back. And also 8 foot pegs. 8 foot pegs.
Yes,
so
it's a troop carrier.
There are more foot pegs than there are G.I. Joe characters that are equipped to handle the Arctic.
Well, now hang on just a minute, buddy, because as we all know, Quick Kick can handle the Arctic with no shoes or socks, no shirt or jacket.
This is true.
He's good to go. Are we in agreement that the side pieces actually should be called ski-pedos?
Ski-pedos. I know. I like Torskitos.
Torskitos. Okay, we'll take that. Torskitos sounds like taquitos, and I'm
it sounds like a snack I should be having with salsa and beer.
Yes, I'm a little peckish right now. I love this vehicle. It's one of my favorites. You're right. The windshield wiper is beautiful. The engine cover in the back is beautiful. The only thing that makes me mad about this is on the back, you have, I'm zooming through my yojo.com references while we still have them available right now. So we have the foot pegs on the back. Obviously, you can have troops on the back of this thing. And what looks like a handlebar at the top of the engine cover. But if certain figures are a little too brittle, you're gonna break their thumbs off when you try and put them on that what looks like a handlebar.
Yeah, that's the case with a lot of things that figure hands go into. So I don't bother putting things in figures' hands unless I can really help it.
No, especially not in this day and age. But even back in 1985 when this came out, you didn't want to force too hard, even before this plastic was all brittle like we know it is now. I love the steering wheel. I love just everything about this vehicle is absolutely fantastic. I love it. It's a great choice, an essential piece of Joe vehicle history that was featured in the cartoon and in the comics.
Oh yeah, lots of media appearances.
Yep.
I mean, they did a lot of Arctic battles. G.I. Joe the movie starts off with a giant Arctic battle, so you get to see some snowcats there. So I always liked how well it was represented, and a few interesting repaints over the years. It was one that got put into the Tiger Force line as the Tiger Cat, and as a costumer, one of my only wore one-time costumes was as the Tiger Force version of Frostbite that I got to wear down to the Joe convention down in Orlando a few years ago. They also did, and what I really think is a striking repaint of it, when they did the Havoc Mark II for the Collectors Club in 2014.
Yeah.
Because this vehicle makes way more sense than the actual Havoc does.
Whoa, hold on, buddy.
But this is it. But
You're
it was
not
in Havoc
wrong,
colors.
but hold on.
And then, of course, it also got a Street Fighter the movie repaint. So
which,
that
by
one
the
was
way,
interesting.
For any listeners who may have a Street Fighter Devastator sitting in their collections and maybe want to get rid of that thing, hit your boy Phantom Troublemaker up, because I needs me a purple snowcat real bad.
I am partial to the Cobra Basilisk version.
Mm-hmm.
I think for the same reason that I like the Cobra repaint of the Shark, that Cobra knew how awesome this vehicle was. So when they had an opportunity to take one off the battlefield, they did it.
Paint it blue.
Yep.
With the red the red canopy as well.
But that's just the blood of the Joes.
Ah, yes. Because you need a windshield wiper to wash
Once
all
the
the blood
windshield
away.
wiper, is going, you see that it's actually clear.
Well, the Basilisk is nice because the fake treads in the back, you actually have like silver wheels with the black treads, so you get a little bit more contrast there. So it's definitely a good look for it.
I'm looking at the retoolings, and they're pretty wild here. The one that I've got on my shelf is the Snowcat from 2003, the Toys R Us exclusive, that is relatively faithful to the original design.
Isn't it a repaint? Or isn't it a repaint of the Devastator? Because that's when that one has that extra thing on top of it, right?
Well, I'm looking at it, and it's a pretty faithful Snowcat, but it has a missile launcher attached to the top of the Snowcat's missile launcher. But it also has this sound thing, which I actually think I threw in the trash, because that was a thing at the time. It's got a giant rocket that goes, or not rocket, blaster that goes on the side. Yeah, that's not on mine on the shelf right now. But it has a snow camo design. Like, it looks really good. But no, this is the Snowcat. Just with a different paint job and an additional spring-loaded rocket launcher that may well be the same spring-loaded rocket launcher that's on the Invader I just got. But going back, I did not buy, and I'm kicking myself for it now because it looks fantastic. In 2010, they did a version called the Wolf Hound that looks great. That I do not have. And this it's got a really nice sort of weathered paint job on it. Like you were saying with the Basilisk, the wheels and the back treads are actually white, so they're not the same black as the mold of the treads. It has the Torpedoes It does not have the additional spring-loaded rocket launcher on top. Like, this is really, really nice. I might have to track one of these down.
Is the regular missile launcher, do those shoot out, or are those missiles locked in? Because it's not the same.
It's a different mold from the original.
Yeah.
It's a more, they're actually in the missile launcher, like in I'm hitting the buttons the wrong way here. In the original Snowcat, the bottom is completely open on the rocket launcher, but on this one there are actually holes that the missiles go into that suggest it might be a spring-loaded.
It looks like there might be 2 buttons on the top.
Well, no, actually,
I'm not for sure.
Looking at the top, it almost looks like there's a switch that you might slide across and launch the missiles one at a time. If you look at the top view.
Oh, I see that now.
You see what I'm talking about at the back? And there were a few items like that at the time that worked that way from Star Wars and from G.I. Joe, where you would either rotate a mechanism or push a mechanism that would launch rockets like that one at a time in that way. So I wonder if that's how that one worked. I got to track one of these down. I wonder what they're going for on eBay.
Now, what's weird about the Wolf Hound is that I don't think they lost the Snowcat trademark at that point, so I don't know why they went with that name, because it's very clearly a Snowcat on the logo on the side of it and not a hound.
Yeah. Interesting.
Because they used the name Snowcat for a Transformer not too long before this.
Huh. Well, whatever the case is, I'm going to be checking out eBay to see if I can get my hands on one of these, because this is definitely, I mean, I still want an original Snowcat because I am trying to rebuild that collection I had when I was a kid, but this is a great looking vehicle, and I don't know why I didn't buy it. It was Pursuit of Cobra. I was buying stuff in 2010. Maybe I just felt like this other one I had was good enough at the time.
And this was the Transformer I just mentioned too. The first time, to my knowledge, that they ever took and directly designed a Transformer after a G.I. Joe vehicle.
Oh, you know what? I had that Transformer at one point. Matter of fact, I probably still do. It's probably still in one of my bins somewhere. But yeah, I bought that because it was the Snowcat.
Yeah, it was named Snowcat. It's clearly, I mean, yes, there's a lot of differences. The treads look different. It doesn't have the same missile stuff on the back.
But it's clearly this
clearly.
The front end of it is definitely inspired by the G.I. Joe Snowcat. So one of very few crossovers they've done like that.
Well, awesome. Great choice. Awesome vehicle that can be, it totally makes sense for its original purpose as an Arctic vehicle, but it can definitely be repurposed for other types of terrain.
Yeah, desert, jungle. I mean, you've got versions for all 3 of those, so it works for any of them.
Yeah,
land and sea and falling through air.
Awesome. Good choice, Noel. Welcome to America's Elite, where we take one G.I. Joe character and talk about the different iterations that have been released in action figure form. And this month, for reasons that we're going to leave it up to the listeners to figure out, we are taking a look at Gabriel Barbecue Kelly. And something new I want to start doing here is just reading out the file card. If Kelly hadn't joined the G.I. Joe team, he would have been the 7th Kelly in his direct line in the Boston Fire Department. His love for the job is not based on family loyalty or even a more general sense of duty. He simply likes riding on the back of the truck with the wind in his face and sirens wailing, lights flashing and bells clanging. Being allowed to knock down doors and smash windows with his axe is just frosting on the cake. Barbecue is what you call your basic party animal. He can open bottles with his teeth, pick up quarters with his ears, and wrap his lips completely around the bottom of a quart Coke bottle. You may well ask how all this affects his function as a G.I. Joe firefighter. It doesn't. It simply makes him more interesting fellow to have around.
And popular.
Who picks up quarters with their ears? What?
This in '85, you had Barbecue come out and you had Airtight come out, and they both had these weird things in their file cards. It was like Airtight collected plastic dinosaurs, and was a practical Joker, and Barbecue could open bottles with his teeth and pick up quarters with his ears. And I still remember these details about these characters because Larry Hama could just take the most mundane. It's like, oh, he's a firefighter. What are we going to do with him? He can wrap his lips around the bottom of a quart Coke bottle.
Well, but that was the magic. That was
yes.
That's why we're still talking about this stuff 40 years later, is because of those little connections that Larry Hama made. They weren't just these, this red guy that we're going to talk about. They were characters. He gave them life. He infused them with these qualities that made us as kids attached to these characters. And if you're wondering, the reason that we chose Barbecue for the proximity to St. Patrick's Day and not Blowtorch, who actually had the outrageous Irish accent on the cartoon, is that Blowtorch is from Tampa, Florida. And yet
his last name was Hanrahan.
That Irish accent. So it's a little confusing. Barbecue, to me, being from Boston, being the firefighter, is the more stereotypically traditional Irish character. So that's who I went with for this month. And we're going to talk about the different versions of Blowtorch. Obviously, there is the original 1985 Blowtorch that I loved because he was part of this new, 84, we got more colorful characters. Things really started to change up on the Joe line. But Barbecue came out and he added a different, more interesting color palette and these accessories that really upped the ante. First of all, everybody knows how much I love toys with hoses, and Barbecue had a hose. He had the hose that plugged from his backpack into the little pistol, the fire suppressor pistol. He had the axe with the freaking spiked knuckles on it, which is ridiculous but awesome. And then his backpack actually had the tanks of fire suppression material that clipped into the little support rack that plugged into his back. So like, it felt like he came with a lot of stuff, and he's a cool looking figure.
And I think, if I'm not mistaken, his axe was the first painted accessory on any G.I. Joe figure.
Yeah, that sounds right, because it has the silver highlight on the axe head.
Everything else is pretty much monochromatic, just molded plastic at that point.
But just a great looking, eye-catching figure. And when you look at all of the Joes that were available at the time, because we have 82, 83, 84, and now the new wave of 85 figures, and you think to yourself, firefighter, to be honest, not the most exciting specialty classification to have, but he looked so cool that you had to have him in your collection.
Yep.
Yeah. I love his look.
Yeah, he was one of the ones that I was most excited about when these figures first were shown for 85. I was like, I loved his color scheme. I just loved the fact that he was a firefighter. I loved fire trucks when I was a kid. So
fire trucks to this day are still the number one selling toy.
Yeah.
And then around the same time, we get the India version where the gray parts are blue. He has a tan or yellow mask rather than the silver that we saw in the American version. And then his backpack had a yellow frame rather than a gray frame. But otherwise, same figure. And then Brazil and Japan releases were the exact same as the US figure. So generally pretty much the same figure. The India figure, as is often the case, was a little more colorful and interesting to look at. But the US figure was the blueprint, was the standard. 1989.
Sorry, I had to vomit.
No, that's okay, because you're not wrong. We get the Slaughter's Marauders version of Barbecue, and this is interesting to me because I love team colors. I am such a mark for in wrestling when tag teams match, or when factions have matching gear, or within GI Joe when you've got, you know, subsets that match, like Tiger Force or Python Patrol. I love that stuff. I eat it up. I love matching uniforms. But my gosh, the Slaughter's Marauders barbecue is heinous.
And the thing is, he's got the base colors for Slaughter's Marauders are great until you get to that blue, which clashes with every other color on the figure.
Well, and
this is just another reason for me to hate Sergeant Slaughter.
Oh no!
Because he saw this
foreshadowing.
And said, yes, this is approved. Here's your helmet for my team.
We've been building up for 2 months now to the clash over Sergeant Slaughter, and we will get to it next month.
I mean, could he possibly be the worst looking G.I. Joe figure?
No, but he's bad.
Yeah, he's definitely bad.
He's up there.
And what's funny, though, is the blue on the other Marauders is not as much of an eyesore as it is on barbecue. Don't get me wrong, it's a horrible color scheme, but it's not as offensive on the rest of them as it is with his big blue helmet here and the blue highlights on his like thigh pad. Like it's just oof.
And the irony is that the Slaughter's Marauders vehicles are the best looking vehicles they ever released for as far as color schemes go.
Yeah. They look great. They're very striking. They look great. They're memorable. But man, this barbecue is rotten. 1989 Slaughter's Marauders barbecue, really bad. And then we move on to version 3 in 1992.
Eco Warriors.
With Eco Warriors barbecue, which makes sense because you would have a firefighter in your regiment of environment protecting Joes.
It makes sense, but I'm going to hijack this again by mentioning him because Eco Warriors did not have an airtight figure.
Oh, that's insane.
And barbecue should have never gotten into Eco Warriors before airtight did, and definitely before Flint did.
Yes, I will agree with all of that. Barbecue makes sense in the Eco Warriors, but not if you're leaving out airtight. That's insane. Airtight? Why did I say that like that? Airtight.
I don't know.
Does this barbecue figure give you guys Fisher Price Adventure People vibes?
Yeah.
That helmet.
I'm pretty much think that all of the Eco Warriors figures had that. So maybe since I like airtight so much, I'm happy that he didn't wind up in the Eco Warriors. He looks like one already.
I don't think this one is bad. I'm not crazy about this little chest gizmo. It looks a little underdone, but like he looks thrilled to be there. He's happy to be an Eco Warrior. If you look at the expression on his face,
right?
And he looks like, okay, in the 1950s, this is what they would have thought a 1992 firefighter would look like. Do you see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
It's a weird design. And his accessory squirts water. So, I mean, what more do you need from a firefighter?
It's also the only time you get to see his face on a figure.
Mm-hmm.
Which it stinks because in the cartoon and the comics, we saw his face. Like Barbecue was a pretty significant character for certain story arcs. And perhaps when we revisit our Super 7 O-Ring retro wish list, we might talk about this more. But yeah, it does kind of stink that there's never been an unmasked Barbecue. So that one's not terrible. It's okay.
Mm-mm.
And then crazy 16 years before we get another Barbecue. It's the 25th anniversary version, came out in 2008. I think it's absolutely fantastic. It holds up to the traditional figure. It is updated well. It looks good. I know a removable helmet would have been a tough call because the problem when you're at this scale is if you give the head, if you have an unmasked head with enough detail on it to look good, then the helmet that goes on top of that head, when it's a full face, like covers everything, is going to be kind of large. So
Yeah.
it would mess up the proportions.
Mm-hmm.
But it would have been nice to have the Gabriel Kelly face here. But otherwise, I think this figure looks great.
Yeah, it's a faithful reproduction of the 85 version.
And it doesn't have any kind of weird proportions or like a long torso or bizarre joints or anything like that. It just looks good. It's a solid figure.
Yeah.
And then the very next year for Rise of Cobra, we get a repaint that is weird, but I don't hate it.
I like the color scheme. It's different. It's a good use of the mold, and it's not a bunch of colors that clash like the Slaughter's Marauders version. So I can deal with this.
Yeah, I see this one as a totally different character than Barbecue. Like to me, this is another sci-fi-esque, laser soldier within the Joe's ranks. There's just something about the way that the colors and the way that they painted the armor on the legs that it doesn't. It's not that it just doesn't scream firefighter. It just screams whole new repurposed figure.
Well, yeah, he's repurposed into a killing machine because he has like 8 weapons that come with him.
Well, that was the theme, though. And 2009 came around, and it was time to load out all of these figures with like 50 different accessories each.
He's got a missile launcher, he's got a submachine gun, and a shotgun in addition to all of his firefighter gear.
And still that axe.
Yes.
Still that axe. But I think the dark gray and the yellow look really cool together. And what was weird to me is that he kind of matches the Agent Helix figure that was a Toys R Us exclusive. This yellow, dark gray, like I don't know, they're the only two they stand out with this color scheme to me. But 2009 was an insane year for G.I. Joe because, as we all know, when you have a media property tied into your toy line, that's full steam ahead, and Hasbro really blew it out in 2009, which we could do a whole series of episodes probably about all the stuff that came out that year.
Yeah, I'm just looking at the list of figures that came out that year.
Oh, it's madness.
That's probably the biggest year ever.
I think so. Yeah,
figures. Wow,
I believe so. But I like this Barbecue. I've got him on the shelf with the movie figures. I think it looks cool.
Yeah, it's a nice modern update.
And then finally, we get one more weird Barbecue for the stack. In 2011, part of a Slaughter's Marauders multi-pack where they kind of just ignored the team colors.
Well, they're still kind of there. It's just
there was like some of them
camo, and they gave him a blue helmet still.
Yeah. I don't. To me, a firefighter.
It's better than the original.
Yes.
One, like the blue is a little bit. Well, it is a darker blue. I don't know. There's something about the way that they painted the mask on him this time. It reminds me of Commando. The blue Commando version of Snake Eyes.
Yeah.
Yeah. The camo works so much better than that brown, yellow, and blue.
Yeah, the camo is great until you realize he's wearing a bright blue helmet that gives away his position.
That's what I don't.
Again, but that's why Sergeant Slaughter is a jerk. He's cannon fodder.
So we're going to make the most visible part of you your head.
Right.
Well, that's what my note here is, literally better than the 1989 figure, but not very barbecue-y.
Right.
Because your firefighter should be, to me, he should be bright colors. He should be a beacon. He should be something that people see, because he's not a combat specialist. He's a rescue guy. So this camouflage doesn't make sense, but it looks better than the 89 one.
Yes.
So now, you know what we've got to do? We've got to pick our favorite version of Barbecue. I will go first.
I don't foresee a lot of fights.
Huh?
I don't foresee a lot of fights on this one.
No, I don't either. I am actually I love the original, but I'm going to go with the 2008 25th anniversary barbecue as the best barbecue figure. It retains the aesthetics of the original, but is a modern action figure. I love it. I think it's great.
Yeah, I'm right there with you. I like how they kind of redesigned the helmet to be a bit sleeker, but still, like, you look at it and you know it's barbecue. Like, it still retains all the important details of version 1, but it just
it's more
fits
streamlined,
better. Yeah.
And I'm gonna be boring and stick with the V1 because I don't think you can get better than the OG barbecue. I mean, just I like the update. I think that he's a very faithful update, the 08 version, but there's something about there's more of the gray accessories on the wrist and on the thighs, and I don't know. I like the original one better. The smaller tank on the front's a little bit sleeker.
And there you go. That is America's Elite for March 2021. Welcome to Knowing is Half the Babble, the segment where we each get a little bit of time to ramble about anything that we want. This month, Noel, why don't you start us off?
So we've gotten in the habit lately. My mother-in-law lives right around the corner, and Sundays are a day to have a dinner with my wife and my mother-in-law, and we usually do pasta. And I decided I want to do a bolognese. And since my mother-in-law keeps kosher, I had to go get some kosher ground beef. And if you live anywhere around Atlanta, you probably know there's really only one place to go get good kosher ground beef unless you want to go pay a fortune, and that's the Kroger at Toco Hills. So went out there yesterday morning just to make a run. And on the way back, I was like, you know where I haven't been in a long time? I have not been in the Book Nook. The Book Nook is a fantastic bookstore. It's enormous. It's just right around the Toco Hills area of Atlanta. They have a comic section, and they do a lot of like used CDs and stuff, but they also got toys. They've actually got a lot of vintage toys and stuff. And most of the time when I go, it's overpriced. There's not a lot of stuff, and I'll take a look and, hey, that's something great. Let's go see if I can find it for $20 cheaper on eBay, which is usually the case. But I happened to catch just on a shelf, they had a Hallmark. Actually, it wasn't even a Hallmark ornament. It was an American Greetings ornament. And it was one I didn't realize they ever made. It was the 1966 G.I. Joe Mercury space capsule recreated into a little Christmas tree ornament. And I love getting little pop culture Christmas tree ornaments. And they had it for like $11.99. And I was like, well, I'll go ahead and grab that. It's a good size thing. So I walk up to the counter with it, and they all look and they kind of laugh and they joke, and they were like, we didn't think we were ever going to get rid of that thing. I said, well, that's because I didn't get in here sooner, apparently. But apparently they have been holding on to. I was like, I should have just negotiated this thing down to like half price, considering how surprised they were. And so he was trying to sell me on the other stuff. They had just gotten a bunch of other if you're looking for like mid 2000s G.I. Joe, they got a bunch of it recently, but they're selling little $5.99 figures and tiny vehicle sets for like $30. So prepare to spend a little bit of money, but check it out. It's a good spot if you're around the Atlanta area.
I gotta tell you though, I have been shocked at the prices of late 90s, early 2000s G.I. Joe that I've seen on eBay lately. Well, all G.I. Joe has skyrocketed, but it's because there are no conventions. There's nowhere to go like to buy G.I. Joe stuff in person right now. So obviously prices on eBay are as high as they've been in years because that's where people are having to go.
Yeah.
But I've been really surprised at the prices on the late 90s, early 2000s stuff because there are a few holes that I've been surprised, just like we talked about with that Snowcat earlier, that I don't understand why I didn't buy it. There are a few things I found that I was actively collecting, and I'm like, why didn't I get this?
Yeah.
But that's what
I was looking at the all of the figures that came out in 2005, and there were a lot of those O-ring figures that were the original molds in just different colors, and especially the battle packs with all of the different troopers and vipers. It's like I could have an arsenal of those things, because I remember seeing them at Toys R Us, and
for
they
nothing.
were so cheap. It was like $10 for 5 figures.
Yeah.
And I could have armies right now.
Yeah, it's mind-boggling. Christian, what do you want to share with us this month?
So news just dropped here recently, and there really isn't a whole lot of detail for us to go into it in our new segment. But it does look like that Hasbro held on to some things for the release of the Snake Eyes movie. There were some SKUs out there with names like Mercury, Mars, and it seems like we have confirmation that we're getting a Baroness figure in the 3 3/4. We're getting a Scarlet. We're getting a vehicle, which I'm wondering, is this what would have been paired up with the Fang? Since we got 2 vehicles in the first wave and then only the Fang. So hopefully we'll have some more news for you guys on that front, but it doesn't look like the retro line is dead, at least in terms of we're still going to be getting some 3 3/4 product.
Good, because that's still my mainstay for sure.
More vehicles, please.
Yes.
Yeah, absolutely, because it's a great way. Well, if they're going to, do things like the All Striker and the Hiss, yes. More Fangs, not so much. All right, well, I will wrap it up with something that I mentioned earlier in the show, but I want to reiterate it now. I have had to put a rule on myself that I am only buying things that I had when I was a kid, because I've gotten so far afield of that because what I like to do is go on eBay, put in G.I. Joe, and set it for ending soonest and location North America, and just scroll through and see what's on there, because you can find crazy cheap stuff like this stupid Invader I got. You just happen across things that are ending in 8 minutes, and you sit there and watch it and you're like, well, heck, why not? I'll throw in a bid. I am doubling down on my rule, though, that I am right now only rebuying stuff that I had when I was a kid, because I have purchased the Lifeline that I mentioned, the mail away Lifeline that I did not have when I was a kid. I have bought a Firefly, one of the repaints that came out in 2005. That is the red camo version. I believe he came in the Crimson Attack boxed set. That is doubly annoying because there were 2 different versions. One came with Tomax, one came with Zaymot, but otherwise they were all the same figures. And I've wanted the Firefly from that set for a while, and I got him and didn't have him when I was a kid, so it broke my rule. And this Invader that I just keep seeing things and I'm like, oh, that's really cool. Or I'll see some 90s stuff that I wasn't collecting at the time, but it's weird. It's bright colors. I like it. And I've got to stop. I've got to put a stop to it because I'm still missing. You guys, I didn't realize I don't have a snow job. I don't know how I overlooked that, because I've got a list that I'm working off of parts that I need and figures that I need. And somehow I missed the fact that I have no snow job. So now I'm wondering, well, what else did I overlook somehow or other? It's a mess over here, you guys. I'm just telling you, I don't know what I'm doing.
I don't know. Snow Job is one of those figures. I love him a lot. After aquatic figures, snow figures always seem to be my go-to.
Yeah.
But he's one of those that there's a Snow Job in like every single G.I. Joe lot.
Always.
Be it 25th anniversary, G1. I put him up there with those same actors that you always see at convention. Convention after convention after convention, where you're like, oh, I don't need to go to their table because I'm going to see them like 5 more times this year, until suddenly you don't.
The Mark Singer of the G.I. Joe universe.
Right.
I heard he likes to drink
so it
quite
doesn't
a bit.
surprise me that you don't have him, because you probably see him so often you think, oh yeah, he's in my collection.
Well, what's bizarre is I've got Frostbite, but no Snow Job. But I do, and I've got, obviously I'm talking about vintage Snow Job, because I've got the 25th anniversary. I've got the weird one that came in like 2002, where he's got like the gray.
Oh, the 50th anniversary.
Well, no. This was an O-ring style Snow Job that he's got the brown beard for some reason.
Is it actually the Frostbite that came with? Because it's a Snow Job repaint called Frostbite that came with one of the Snowcats.
Well, and that's
actually with the Snowcat
I've got
that you
that
have.
one too, and he's got the green jacket with the white pants that makes no sense. But then I've also got just like a dirty Snow Job, which nobody likes a dirty Snow Job.
We got to keep this PG.
That was, I think he was one of the 2 or 3 packs that came out in the late 90s. But yeah, I don't have a vintage Snow Job, and I got to get that. But I've got to stick to my rule, you guys. I've got to be serious about this. Only stuff I had when I was a kid. And that, I believe, is all we've got time for this month on Audible Interlude. Please follow us on Instagram at Audible Interlude Podcast, on Twitter at G.I. Joe Audible. And of course, you can find Christian online.
Yes, on Instagram and Flickr.com. You can see all my toy photography under the name Legion Cub.
And Noel?
You can find me on dorkdroppings.com occasionally. And you can also find me participating in events with the Finest. Real quick, because I know that you all were champing at the bit to get at this episode as soon as possible. So I know you're listening to this on Friday morning, and that means that you still have time, because on Friday, March 5th, 6 p.m. Eastern time, our Ohio Garrison, which is facebook.com/Corvus Squadron, is doing a huge charity auction. They've got a bunch of awesome stuff that they're going to be giving away in this auction, including a mini comic of the first issue of the G.I. Joe comic, signed by Larry Hama, Herb Trimpe, Bob McLeod, and Mike Zeck. That and lots of other things you can bid on, and it all goes for a fantastic cause. So if you get a chance to do that, that is facebook.com/Corvus Squadron to check out where that charity auction's happening.
Awesome. Well, thank you guys for sitting down and talking G.I. Joe. And until next month, yo, Joe.
Cobra.
You have been listening to a Needless Things podcast. You can follow Needless Things on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and at needlessthingspodcast.com. Love you. Mean it. Uh-huh.